I can go ahead and start. Hello, my name is Randy Houchins, and I thank you for your time and for your attention. My daughters will start 6th and 7th grade next year in the Leander Independent School District, and many of you have heard me testify on my younger daughter's struggles with elementary school math. I am now just as concerned about what I'm seeing in middle school math and what I read in the TEKS for high school math. My older daughter has been teaching herself Algebra 1 over the summer. Because she plans to take the 8th grade math placement test in a few weeks so that she can take Algebra 1 in 7th grade, last week we started looking at what kinds of questions she would need to answer. I was shocked when I found that some of the same confusing and unnecessary methods will be required as a result of the addition of the process standards to the TEKS. The process standards are in all grades, and the instructional materials are starting to include what I can only call a rather screwy method. Let's work some simple algebra problems using algebra tiles. Multiplying polynomials. I'll give the example of x minus 2 times x plus 3. Anybody know how to use those tiles? Because I sure didn't until I did a little research. Working the same problem using the standard algorithm, FOIL, you can solve this problem in 3 steps. Dividing polynomials, x squared plus 5x plus 4 divided by x plus 1. Same thing. The tiles are really confusing. The standard algorithm works in 4 simple steps. The introduction to the TEKS say the process standards weave the other knowledge and skills together so that the students may be successful problem solvers and use mathematics efficiently and effectively in daily life. How does using algebra tiles help students work polynomials more efficiently and effectively than the standard algorithm? Is this what counts as increased rigor? Try to work a 5th order polynomial. Try to work a 5th order polynomial using these algebra tiles. Or how about working a problem where the coefficients are not a whole number? The tiles simply cannot be used. If they cannot be used on all problems, then why are we wasting time using them at all? If you cannot use the algebra tiles on more complex problems, do the students really have that conceptual understanding that the new TEKS and Common Core claim to provide? I say no. If all the student understands is this algebra tile method of solving a problem that will only work on the most simplistic of problems, the student probably won't or cannot have the skills needed to apply the technique to more advanced problems. My conclusion, and that of many other parents, is that Texas didn't need to adopt Common Core because the addition of the process standards, as well as the moving of TEKS from upper grades to lower grades, has made the TEKS Common Core. In case you didn't know, College and Career Ready is also another name for Common Core and reform education. When you hear phrases like the curriculum is a mile wide and an inch deep, or we need to focus on education to be college and career ready, or we need to focus on the depth, not breadth, in discussions of new legislation, please understand that these are all catchphrases for reform education and Common Core. What does college and career ready mean? And do we really need to be pushing elementary students to choose a career path? These students have not had enough exposure to what careers are available, and they have not been taught enough to know if they like engineering, science, and technology. They simply have not been taught skills to make that career decision. So who is making that decision for them, and what is the decision based? Selecting a career path so early and tailoring education for only that career path limits students' possibilities. Perhaps reform education is not about educating children at all. Perhaps it's about companies data mining our kids to sell to future employers, or about companies making money.
Mr. Houchins, sorry, I didn't hear the second bell. Excuse me.
I just have...
Okay, so wrap it up here. Give us your last thought. Right.
Yeah. After all, someone has to sell the next gadget or software package to teach these new methods. How much has some company made selling useless algebra tiles? Review the TEKS, remove Common Core and this ridiculous content that reform education thinks brings conceptual understanding. I again thank you for your time and attention. Any questions?
Yes, Mrs. Miller.
I appreciate it. It's very, very well done. We have been told over and over by the math people that we have Common Core, that all this is right. And I mean, it doesn't matter. We have, just like you're saying, complaints saying, wait a minute, this is like Common Core. We've had people frustrated because they don't understand it and can't teach it like they normally would, okay? So, but we keep being told by the teachers, or the people, the math teachers who developed it, that it's okay, that it's not Common Core. So it's very frustrating for me,
It's very
especially when I
frustrating
go
for
out and
students.
talk to my constituents, who keep telling me, we're doing Common Core, and I'm here, can't be, anyway, so that, if you want to expound on that.
Yeah, we are definitely teaching Common Core in Texas. All of the materials that come home have Common Core on them. And, I hear, someone say that parents are not understanding when they say the process standards are Common Core, but if you look, the other handout I gave you, the TEKS comparison with Common Core, in 1998, I agree, the process standards were in the TEKS, but they were nothing like what they are today. And they're word for word the same as Common Core now. So,
Ms. Perez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Hutchins, thank you so much for your testimony. And then I was looking at this last problem. There's no way in the world that I could ever figure this out.
yeah, I gave that as an example because there are people really do use complex polynomials in some of their career paths.
Absolutely.
That particular equation is one I solved last week for a motor that I'm using in an application.
That's incredible. So thank you for the work that you do. But I did have a question for you really quickly. So I understand. I very candidly am not familiar with this as well, but I was trying to look in the TEKS that you prepared for us, or that you provided for us, and I don't see anything specific. Can you tell me where specifically this is being told to use? Because I know that there is a portion here where the TEK part C is mentioning that manipulatives are to be used.
Yes, these are the manipulatives they're talking about.
Right, and so that is not something that we have any purview over, so our educators can use whatever manipulatives they decide to implement in a classroom.
Yeah. The way the TEKS are written now, it says that you have to be able to solve using multiple methods. And that's where these manipulatives and the other teaching methods, the Common Core methodology comes in. That's what we've been fighting for the last year and a half. The algebra tiles seem to be an extension of the area model, and the area model is specifically called out in the TEKS.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm a mechanical engineer.
Ms. Carville?
Madam Chair, is Vaughn back there or is Nicole? Well, I see Nicole. Well, no, it does get very confusing, and one issue with the law about Common Core is that the language doesn't extend to the instructional materials. So teachers, as it's been explained to us several times by legal staff, Common Core instructional materials may be used as long as the teacher is still teaching the TEKS. And that's very, very confusing. And I think, I would much prefer that our teachers use textbooks that are edited for Texas. And there are still plenty of them because we're still a very big market. But I don't know, Nicole, do you know what the law specifically says about that, or? I might not have explained it very well, but.
No, from my understanding, and Vaughn can correct me when he gets back if this is a mistake, but I think you're correctly stating what the law is, which is simply you cannot replace the TEKS coverage with Common Core. So the statute doesn't specifically prohibit the use of materials that contain any Common Core as long as they're otherwise covering the TEKS 100%.
So now, publishers, so many states are on Common Core, that's what they're writing their books for. I mean, it's a publisher's paradise. There are, 45 states or so using Common Core, and so, that's where a lot of the choices come from, are from those materials. But I get it. I mean, I understand your frustration.
Well, and both the Common Core and, as we found out when we were investigating this issue, both the Common Core and Texas used the national math benchmarks that were assembled from a group that I think they published those in 2010. Did we find that? I think it was 2010. And so those benchmarks were both used by the Common Core and Texas when they were looking at, because they were putting their standards together at the same time Texas was putting our standards together. So there is a commonality on the process standard side for sure, but within the actual standards, not looking at the process standards, but the actual standards, there's not as much. What I'm saying is we have our own standards that are different from the Common Core standards within each grade.
Yes, and most of the parents who have actually looked at the TEKS agree that the meat of the TEKS are
Right.
fine, they're really good. Math hasn't changed in several hundred years. There hasn't been a breakthrough in calculations that would warrant the need for new teaching methods or textbooks. But then the publishing companies can't make their money selling new textbooks or instructional materials.
So where you're seeing the commonality is in the process standards, not in the standards themselves that are the foundation of each course.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it's the process standards and the moving of the standards that make it exactly the same as Common Core, which allows districts like Leandra to use Common Core materials to teach the TEKS.
Yes, Mrs. Miller.
I have been, as I go out to my district and talk to my constituents, and we had a lot of legislators coming and having panels talking about what they did, this last time. So, as I went out, people would do the same thing. They would come up and say, Ticey, my school district is doing Common Core, and I said, no, it can't be, it's against the law. 462, and I go through there. No, it is against, it's being used, it's written at the bottom of the document. So I went back and read, just like you read the bill or the law, and I saw that there was no teeth in it, no consequence. If you did break the law, there's no consequence. And as you recall, Dan Patrick is the one who authored or had it authored, and then he sent it over to Abbott, who was then Attorney General, to give an opinion. He upheld it.
I want to make sure we're heading toward a question here.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is that the legislators are very frustrated because they knew the law. They thought, what my point was, is that we thought it was dead, Donna. Okay, Common Core's dead, okay, after those two things that happened. Obviously, it's not dead. They want to go back this next time and do some more work on the law and amend it and put some teeth in it. So we're going to work on it. We're not through.
I've been talking to a lot of the legislators.
Good.
So, any
Don't give
more
up.
questions for Mr. Houchins?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Mr. Marshall?
Thank you for being here. I remember it was yourself, the engineer, and the other parent, unrelated, who was
A doctor.
a medical doctor.
Yeah, she's in Uganda right now. She'd be here if she was able to be.
And y'all appeared before when I met you. It was a committee I sat out and sat into. Miss Malone's meeting, I guess, committee hearing on this, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Back in
Back in November.
Back there. And what I will tell you, when I just like to actually talk to my group so we don't have Common Core, and basically they're almost pinned the word liar on me. What I'm seeing, are you seeing handouts coming out, your kids coming back home that are stamped Common Core at the bottom?
Absolutely.
Are you seeing questions coming back that your child can work right, can get the right answer, but it's wrong because they're using the wrong process?
I have seen that, yes.
And have you seen anything where, Brad, this is not rehearsed, I'm telling you what I've seen other places. Have you seen examples where they got the wrong answer, but they follow the right process?
I have seen other students that have had that happen, not my own.
You see that, I have your Mr. Maynard district, so I don't have, but I'm telling you the question I'm asking you is the same question I'm hearing throughout my district, two different places. And the outrageous part is, and I talked to this last time, we had our priorities legislative, which you all turned down, which is fine, but we have no teeth in the legislation. And when I see parents show me handouts that come home, and they have it, boldly, like in our face, stamped Common Core handouts, and when I see things like, in fact, that's how I met you. You showed me a problem in the hallway once. I don't remember me or not, but you showed me an answer, and I got it, and you asked how I did it. Well, mental math, I put this problem here, you showed us.
Yeah, we would have gotten it wrong.
First program.
Right.
But my question was, again, but I told you the answer was wrong. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And you said, well, it's wrong, but it was right because the process was right.
Right.
Even though the answer was dead wrong. I'm telling you, members, I mean, you're gonna go out there, and I'm gonna warn all of you, if you haven't already, as Tachi has said, we're gonna go out there from our heart saying that we voted against Common Core. We have a law, but the law has no teeth. I really want to legislate to get some teeth this time. I want to be one of our priorities. Board voted no, but I'm telling you, we look rather foolish out there. And I'm telling you, it's kind of in our face when a parent shows me a handout. And you've seen them too, right? Once or many times, handouts that say Common Core on the bottom.
Oh, many, many times.
So I'm not talking about, yeah, different, in one grade or different grades, I don't know.
Oh, it's different grades. Yeah, we've put together a Facebook group, there's 400 members, and we're
Right.
sharing all this
You're answering
information.
all my questions, they
Any-
answered. And I wish every one of my questions you were saying no, but I'm telling you what, everyone else, it's, Madam Chair, I have a very strong concern, because we've done the right thing, but it is not, are our TEKS okay? Are our TEKS strong with this issue?
If you remove the process standards, the TEKS would be good. The meat of the TEKS are great. Math, like I said, math hasn't changed. But this focusing on conceptual understanding versus skills, that the process of getting the answer is more important than the answer itself. That's what makes the TEKS bad. And that's where the Common Core influence is. That's where the process standards are.
And here's one last question. How can an answer, tell me how an answer can be right or be wrong? If we're teaching, learn different methods, Madam Chairman, members, to learn how to do something, right? Different methods, and I choose what you call the FOIL method, which is actually the way I learned. I didn't know it's called FOIL. And I get the right answer, but it's wrong because I didn't follow. Well, we have the right words in our standards. Learn different methods of doing it. Choose the method. When we do education, what method might be best for you? But the answer is wrong because I didn't follow the Common Core process.
Yeah, my daughter was going to get the problem wrong because she could not use the tiles to solve the problem. She knew how to work the problem, but she got it wrong because she couldn't use the tiles.
I think I made my point, Madam Chair.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question,
Start.
staff? Monica,
Thank you, sir.
were the same process standards, weren't they the same ones from the TEKS before we revised them, but they were at the end of at the bottom?
Yes,
So by moving them to the top, they're the exact same, but we moved them to the top, so maybe teachers weren't using them before. I mean, I'm just trying to reconcile in my head how they were the same, for the past 10 or 12, whenever we revised the math the last time, I can't remember, but.
And the challenge is, and I think it's already been noted that the board doesn't have any authority over the methodology or the way that a specific teacher may be misinterpreting the expectations and the standards.
I mean, it just
So I
seems-
think the issues of, this is really an issue of methodology, not an issue of your standards.
Well, I think, they were always there, and now they've been moved to the top of the TEKS. But according to the latest research with the that's what we were told during this whole process, the latest research, this is the way to do it. So not being a math expert, we rely on our math people, so, but it's hard.
Did anybody have any more questions for Mr. Houchins? Thank you so much for driving in once again to testify.